Welcome to this episode of the Aligned Founder Podcast. How are you doing, Rene?
Very good. I'm super excited about this episode. We are going to touch on some of my favorite topics. So, yeah, and I think it's going to be great for people who are interested to go on the journey with us to really understand what options they have and what we're all about.
So we just got back from a 1-week men's founder retreat in Georgia, the mountains of Mestia in Georgia, which was pretty...
place nobody knows, probably.
Yeah. If you've been there, props, because it's pretty out of the way. But I think it's worth the journey. We just got back, I think about 2 weeks ago. So I think everything's kind of landed nicely now, and we can look back. Yeah. We were just watching our after movie there before, like really taking in some of the testimonials and
watch it.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Watch it after this episode.
Yeah.
So we were kind of reflecting on this journey that has been the last year of the business and the first retreats we've run, and that being the most recent, as well as the one-on-one work we've done. And I suppose the intention of today's episode is to answer a question that we get asked quite often. I think Rene has probably explained this one many times on discovery calls. So most people are coming to our product and our company from maybe hearing our co-founder Bjorn talk about his experience of breathwork and coaching and going on retreats and doing one-on-one work with me, and coming to some kind of thing of like, okay, that sounds good. I want to have something similar. I want to work on myself. What's the best option for me? And I'd imagine there's some kind of analogy or story that you use to describe the difference.
Yeah, like basically there's two main products. It sounds weird in this context, but it is that we have, and that's the ongoing one-on-one packages where people come to us weekly or bi-weekly for an extended period of time. And then there is the retreats. Obviously, everybody knows what a retreat is. We go to some nice place abroad, in a really cool environment and do some deep work there for a week. So what's best for me? Many people are asking that, and I'm going to try to tell a little story, okay? An analogy. Pete is the king of analogies, but I'm trying to keep up a little bit here. So I like this one. So imagine you're in a village. It's always cold there. It's dark, it's cold, and yeah, you kind of just used to it, you know? For some people, that's fine. Some people are struggling, but that's just what it is. Yeah. And they have never heard about fire. They don't know what fire is. Okay, so if you have never heard about something, you also don't believe in it. And fire, but what can it do to somebody who lives in a cold world that is dark? Well, it can give a lot of benefits. It can give warmth. You can cook food. It can give light. It can add a lot to your life, and not only to your life, but also to the people around you and to the people in the village. So that's how I kind of like to look at the work we do. It's like this fire that can add in different types value to people's lives. Now, we came to Berlin. Many people don't know what breathwork is, and especially this kind of breathwork that we do. Naturally, many people also don't really believe that it works because they don't know it.
Sure.
And now, staying with this story, people started to hear about this thing called fire, and they think, wow, sounds really great, but I don't really believe it. So what happens, or what needs to happen for them to believe it, is to actually to see it, to feel it, to see what it looks like, to feel the warmth, to ignite that fire. And I think that's the most difficult and most important part. And here the retreat comes in. On a retreat, it's much easier to ignite that fire than, for example, on a one-on-one session. Because if you come to a one-on-one session, you get one match, and you try to ignite the fire, but maybe it's raining that day, it's wet, it doesn't work. Or maybe the match breaks, and you think, oh fuck, this doesn't work, and you never come back, and you miss out on all the great things the fire can give you. Or maybe you see like a little spark, but it also doesn't work, but you see the spark, and you're like, maybe there is something, and you keep coming. And that's what can happen if somebody just comes on a one-on-one session once. If you go to a retreat, you have 20 or 30 matches because there's so many triggers, so many opportunities to ignite that fire, seeing other people, telling about their experience, seeing their emotions, having several sessions, having all these exercises, being in this environment. So I would say, whether that's on the first day, on the third, or on the fourth day, with one of these matches, you're going to ignite that fire. And what happens in this moment is it's an unbelievable moment because you feel the warmth. You feel, wow, I don't have to be cold anymore. There's something new that can actually grow and support me and the people around me. And then you cannot unsee that. So that's why I love the retreat, because you experience that and then you can't unsee it, and you know there is something that can really add value to your life, and you keep going. And even if, and then here's the downside of the retreat, you come home, you have this amazing experience, and maybe you go back to your normal life, and it kind of dies out again. However, you still know it works. There is this thing called fire, so you can always go back. And the benefit on the one-on-one though is, in order to keep the fire going, you need to collect more wood, you need to keep feeding it. If you want to make a bigger fire and bigger, you need to keep working on it. And that's what happens with the one-on-one. People come back every week and they nurture that. So really, but what we need is the initial spark, the belief, the motivation that this can actually do something for me. And yeah, so in my ideal world, people go to retreat, find the belief, and then keep going. And yeah, that's like...
I love that, yeah. And one thing I'll also add is that there's a lot of people out there who also advertise fire, but then they just pour petrol on people and light them on fire. Yeah. And then that doesn't help them either. So it's about finding the balance of how to work with the fire, you know, in a way that's supportive. And I love the analogy of how then you bringing that back to a gift to your home, or to your family, and how the others around you can be also warmed by you igniting the fire in yourself.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I like that. I'll add that one to my list of analogies. Really nice. Yeah. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums up the episode. So that's it. Goodbye. No, we're going to dive into like some of the more left brain logistics of these two different offerings that are available. So the first one is the retreats, which is like what we just talked about, like this very deep experience. And I want to talk, actually, no, I think we'll start with the one-on-one. So for me, one-on-one, so my experience was basically 4.5 years in Bali of going on this journey, and it was very much self-created. I was working with a coach, and I was also working with a one-on-one breathwork practitioner, and also doing some group work at the same time, and also doing some retreats. So I was kind of combining bits and pieces and seeing what worked at different stages and different chapters I was in. So the one-on-one work, you know, I was combining basically the mindset and the understanding my cognitive processes, my behavior patterns in a coaching setting, and really making sense of everything. And then I was taking them into the breathwork sessions and processing the emotions underneath and changing, you know, what was down then on a deeper level. So, you know, doing that week on week was really beneficial because it allowed me to go out into the world, to have life show all these different challenges or triggers, and then to go bring them into the session week on week, and then work through it, and then go back out into my life with a new, like a new outcome or a new thing that I could apply, you know? So that was really empowering and allowed me to make real-time changes. Kind of like if I'm flying a plane, I'm going in and I'm making like minor adjustments to the plane as it's flying, you know, so I can keep it flying, but it's like tick, 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 like a little bit here and there, okay? So that was really beneficial. So some of the pros of a one-on-one setting, what would you say some of them are?
Yeah, of course, like you come in and this session is just for you. We read your breath, your breathing pattern. We adapt every single song on the playlist based on where you are in the journey. Pete's doing the coaching before. Usually when somebody's coming to the one-on-one breathwork session with me, I already know the topics that are present. Based on that, I can choose my affirmations, what I'm saying to the person in the session, maybe some particular song that will trigger a topic that is present. I have the whole hour just to watch this one person, touch and apply pressure on certain points that serve this person at any moment. So it's a very individual experience. You have hands-on, and you get to work really on the topics you want to work at right now. And at the retreat, obviously, you kind of share the attention of the practitioners with others. Mm-hmm. And this is really just your space and you can go in and say, this is what I want to work at. And
I want to share this, you know, you can be fully heard, the focus is on you. And then there's, as I said afterwards, like some people who really just want to come in and work on their own stuff and not really listen or hear about other people's stuff, which is totally fine. Yeah. They're just like, they're busy, they got so much going on, they just need that space and that time for themselves in their life, and a one-on-one container is a really good place to do that.
Yeah, and it's also a great anchor. Some people are saying, hey, I'm always looking forward to that day of the week. Also with the one-on-one sessions, it's like many people feedback that they love that it's almost like an anchor. Every week they come in and they know, hey, all the stuff that I was going through this week, I can come here to process basically. Yeah. So as you said before, life happens and different things come up every day. For example, if we identified some triggers in people, for example, oh, I'm a people pleaser and I never speak up. And I realize I want to speak up, but I don't do it. And they're so used to it. And I say, hey, from now on, write down the moments you get triggered or you feel like, oh, I wanted to say something and I didn't. And then analyze yourself and then bring it into the sessions with us. And then we can work on that. Like, this is very particular, you know, something that comes up in life and you actually bring it and you do something with it. Yeah. So, yeah, that's another benefit.
For sure. I think another thing is as well, if people aren't used to, let's say, opening up or going deeper in sessions, I think the one-on-one setting in the beginning can be really powerful because it allows, like, the nervous system feels safe to go to levels that maybe it wouldn't in a group setting. Okay, so it means that we can really go deep, and I would give the analogy of like in a group circle when I would go for a first time and it's just random people. Maybe I go like to level -2 or -3 in the basement, you know, in terms of the depth of my experience and my emotions. Whereas in a one-on-one, I would go to maybe -5 or -6. So if I knew there was a topic that's like, oh, that's a really like, you know, deep or old emotion and I'm really scared to express that, or maybe it's not welcome in a public place, people might judge me, then I think the one-on-one is a great place to explore that because everything can be tailored around exploring and expressing that one emotion or experience, you know?
And also, like, based on the evidence that we saw in the last year now, it is so important how safe does the breather feel in a particular setting. And that really shows in the breathwork sessions. Because compare a company workshop with a public breathwork circle with a retreat, for example. In a company workshop, many people are afraid to open up in front of their co-workers and show their emotions, which was leading to most people talking about breathwork in the end as being really nice, relaxing, good experience, but no boom stuff happening.
My life has changed.
Yeah. And then going to Georgia, where everybody came to with the intention, I want to go deep. Basically, the shares, when people were sharing about their experience after every circle, could go on for 1 hour because everybody was going so deep, and there was almost no session where anybody said, oh, this was relaxing. Everybody really went to the deepest emotions. And we didn't do anything different in terms of how we facilitate or how we structure the session itself. It was just really the environment and how safe people felt to go in there. So this is hugely important. And that's, again, why a session with 60 people in a room with strangers will never allow you to feel as safe as in an environment where you feel safe.
Yeah. So that brings us, I think, to some of the cons of a one-on-one container. Because there's always pros and cons.
I'm always mixing up the topics. Yeah. He's trying to keep the structure, and I'm
keep the ship on route. Yeah, Rene's like, let's look over here. So one of the cons of it, no, but it's a great point because one of the cons of a one-on-one is that you don't have this input from other people. Okay, so there's not this like, you know, group where everyone's really going deep. Like I think even at a retreat in Georgia, the first dinner before we even did any breathwork, people were already opening up and sharing topics they hadn't told anyone before. And that just set the scene. And I think having that permission from others, it shows them what's possible. And in a one-on-one, it's kind of like only as deep as you're really willing to open up to, and maybe what the practitioner or the coach is kind of wanting to guide you to or poke you to. Whereas it's kind of like I think in a one-on-one, it's more of like a self-led journey or like a, you know, driving in a small car versus being on this like kind of bus or this like experience where you're in it and on it and there's like stuff happening around and you're kind of brought along for the journey. I would say another con of the one-on-one is that it takes longer to see like a significant shift, you know, or the shift happens over time, so it's harder to pinpoint that was the moment. Yeah. You know, it's like, you know, you work with us for 4 or 5 months, and of course a lot of things change, but it's so incremental and slow. Yes, it still happens, and it's important to work with the nervous system and behavior patterns over time to integrate them. Yeah. However, it's harder to really pinpoint on, oh, that was the moment. Maybe there's 1 or 2 sessions that really stand out. But often the conscious mind wants to cling to like the big experience. And otherwise it might say, oh, is it really working? Oh, is it worth it? You know, even though the body and the behaviors can really be changing, and it's only in reflection that we can look back and see, oh shit, like so much has shifted. And it just takes longer, you know, because it's just once a week, and then you come in, you feel relaxed, and you worked on some stuff, and you know, maybe I should stop doing that thing at work or whatever. And then you go back, and then you're kind of sucked back into old patterns because you're still living in the same home environment, work environment. So it's not that like complete isolation from your usual environment that allows you to see your world completely differently, like you get in a retreat.
Yeah, for sure. I see that actually as an important part of my one-on-one work here in Berlin, the expectation management, to really try and explain to clients that they have to be patient with themselves and just accept any week, any session as it is. Sometimes it's going to be big, sometimes it's going to be not as emotional, but maybe equally beneficial. Yeah. But the thing is that as compounded after this 3-4 months, it will have impact. And even with myself, I still notice now when I'm going through a certain life situation that I can't pinpoint to any particular breathwork session, but I see how different I react and deal with it now and navigate it. And I know Rene before breathwork would have lost his shit or lost control or been sucked down in an emotional crisis. And now I'm just like dealing with it completely differently. And I know it's a result of that. And I can't really pin it down. And to give people that trust is important because you need to believe in something in order to really take it serious and work on it. And I think now it gets easier and easier though, because we have more and more people who have been going through the process and all of them basically are saying the same, hey, this is it. I think there's so many of our former clients or still clients who said, hey, it's cool if you have somebody new who isn't sure, like give them my number, you know, they can call me. I'm happy to tell them, you know, do it, you know, and that's just so great. Even sometimes we have clients that already starting to think on our behalf on business level, like saying, hey, I had this idea for you just on the weekend was like that again. So it's great to, yes, it's a business, but it's also just sharing so much positive connection with people and becoming friends with people. And yeah, it's just, it's great.
Mm-hmm. One thing I want to add to that, like that analogy you used, which is like when was like, let's say someone goes to the gym and trains consistently, like when was the exact gym session that you could bench press 100? Well, I don't know when it happened, but it happened some point, and then life throws you a situation where you have to use a lot of strength, and it's as a result of the like consistent work you've put in over time, not one session necessarily, that created, now you've got all the strength, you know, it was the incremental changes over time, which I think is a nice way of putting it then. Yeah. You know, life presents a big challenge and you can then see the true test of the work you've done. And that typically, it was the feedback from some of our one-on-one clients that hadn't done a retreat, but only the one-on-one, that they realized that when life serves up like a big can of whoop ass and a really challenging situation, they're like, oh wow, I'm really watching myself respond completely different when previously I would have gone into victim or anger or blame, and now I'm just chill and I've dealt with it, and actually I've saved myself like 2 months of stress by just dealing with this up front instead of avoiding it, or you know what, the behavior has changed without them even realizing. It's just a new way. So that's the one-on-one pros and cons. The next, I suppose, the other side of the coin is the retreats, which we've already kind of spoken a bit about. Which is more of, you know, we don't like to use the term peak experience too much, but it's like a notable experience. You know, it's, you know, the first time when you go to a new place and you watch the sunset, you know, it can be a really magical moment. However, if you live in a place and watch the sunset every day, yes, it's still beautiful, but it's less notable as like, wow, a standout moment in time. Yeah. So I think a retreat experience is mixing that notable like environment, going to a new place with a group of people, having, you know, really a new experience, and combining that with the insights and breakthroughs that come with, you know, doing a lot of deep personal development, like coaching, breath work, exercises, which then it kind of like anchors those insights to a place and a feeling and a time, and it kind of gives it like a timestamp. So your system really remembers like, wow, I remember that moment, how powerful it was. I remember where I was standing. You know, it's like the moment people say like, where were you when 9/11 happened? Or where were you when you proposed? You know, it's so deeply ingrained because it's a significant location, life moment. There's a lot of emotion attached to it. And I think it really sets something in the system that we remember for the rest of our lives. And that's a beautiful, I think, anchor point and reference point for people for the rest of their lives, because they always will have that moment, even in challenging times in the future, of that retreat they did, we'll say.
Yeah.
So how has those processes been for you? We had a small retreat in Berlin last year. We had Ibiza, and then now Georgia, and also Greece as well. So how have those experiences been for you?
Yeah, I can't, like, on a personal level, this is 10 out of 10 in terms of fulfillment.
Yeah.
Being at a retreat, being a part of that. It's almost like not possible to try and convey what we witnessed emotionally, the breakthroughs, the real life shifts that have already happened. People picking up the phone, calling loved ones, having conversations that they didn't have for 20 years maybe. And like, even thinking about it,
on
like
day 3.
on day 3, and yeah, it's like it's funny because thinking back to this week, hearing the feedback, still how people are from the retreat are interacting with each other now, all the things that have happened. I'm like, if anybody listening to this right now would have seen or felt what was happening at the retreat, we would be booked out for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
It's like, it's impossible to convey with words, but that's why, like, I was always so hesitant to be salesy or sell something, because I don't want to be seen as this person. But like now with the retreats, I'm really at the point where I can just go all in and say, like, fucking do it, because I know they're going to thank me later, and they know they're not going to be resentful, because it's just what we've created there, and mostly what you have created based on all the retreats that you have done before and stuff. I was just sitting there like, wow, I can't believe this is what we're doing for people, with people. And yeah, I don't care if that sounds arrogant now, like because it comes from the heart, and I'm just so grateful for this journey.
Totally. And it's almost like now that you've seen what you've seen, it would be a disservice to not promote it.
Yeah.
Like for you to know what's available and how deep and profound that could be for someone, and then to hide it and close it away for fear of you being seen as salesy is like, actually, it's a disservice to other people. So yeah, it's really nice. So like, again, this idea of the retreat, it's in a new environment, new location, with a group of like-minded people who are, same in the terms of they've been on maybe a more similar life path than you could probably think, and therefore share a lot of the same challenges and patterns. And typically within this group, people opt into an experience and they interact differently. Maybe one or two people they remind us of a guy from school that we didn't like. One or two remind us maybe of our little brother or our dad, or, different energies emerge and different patterns emerge. And with that, we get to like create this kind of like it's like a landscape of different people and their inner worlds, and mix them all together. And from that, the catalyst for change happens really quick. And everyone is taking away, like, I would say, exponential personal insights and shifts. And then, as you said, the integration is people really are like, they see and feel so much that it's impossible to ever go back. Like people who have like literally hidden and repressed themselves for years say, I now know too much. It's impossible for me to ever hide myself anymore. And then pick up the phone and make the call and do the thing. It's quite surreal to see. So we could talk all day about the pros of that as an experience, and how having that moment in time and experiencing that fire, like you said, really does ignite something for people. However, go on. You were going to say.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, if we look at the last night at the dinner table, where we spent a good hour, basically each participant giving feedback to each person, and each person got like the attention.
I think compliments, would be.
Yeah, like just something I learned about you, something that I admire in you.
Yeah.
And that was probably the most authentic and raw and deep feedback people have received from so many different other people that they learned to respect, that it was like just so profound. And sitting there, like, it could have never ended. I enjoyed it so much. And then that also created this unbelievable sense of trust and community. And here we come to the first downside, is to leave that space again, having all of these amazing experiences in this group where, no matter how you feel, you're going to be held, you're going to be supported, and then you come home back to normal life. And that can feel scary or
Jarring, maybe, yeah.
jarring. And then I love the voice note that you put in our WhatsApp group with all the participants, like speaking to that, because there were actually a few of the guys who felt pretty down coming home.
Yeah.
So there is like now for us something we're working really hard on because people want it. How do we create a community that ongoingly helps people to support each other and not just do this mistake of creating this wow week for them and then leaving them to their own devices and maybe going backwards, and really just giving support, creating community and helping people to keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, totally. I think like compared to something like going on a ayahuasca or mushroom retreat, like the integration is a little bit easier because, you know, when you go and merge with oneness consciousness and meet God and the angels, and then it's Monday morning kickoff meeting, it's like it's quite hard to match those two worlds. And I think because we're accessing these emotions and stuff with our own supply, with breath and with just deep connection, I think the doors that are opened are slightly more integratable. Especially when we can stay in connection and, you know, knowing that people are just a message or a call away. Yeah. I think that without intention, though, it can, like you said, be hard to really integrate that experience. And that's something that is, as I said, important for us to do. And that's why we've lined up now a follow-up call with the guys, and some of them I know are in touch with each other, meeting up.
I was just going to say that, I will also talk to a few, and they said, I've been talking to him, I'm talking to that. Some created business connections, two brothers who have completely transformed their relationship, who checking in with each other every morning by voice note, and like giving each other that kind of support. And I saw them a weekend, they loved it, and just still seeing the continuous benefits.
Totally. And so I think that kind of brings to the final piece, which is for me the perfect combo, which is really, you know, having this retreat experience, which is this snapshot moment in time, the igniting of the fire. But then how do I bring that into my life? And I think the two elements is like the integration with like ongoing, then taking those insights and that new version of you that you've accessed in a retreat. And then how do I take that to see my parents on the weekend, or to talk to my partner that I'm married for 8 years and actually we have this thing that we've not spoken about, and how do I actually go about the nitty-gritty of that, of integrating who I now find myself to be into the lives of those around me. And how do I maybe make a significant shift that I know I can't stay with this company and I need to leave, but how do I manage this founder's expectations and this, you know what I mean? And so working through those can be where people, like, if there's not that ongoing kind of like support, then those things, even though we know it should be done and I'm different, it can still feel challenging. And that's why people can maybe feel down, because they're not being met in the same way like they've now known they could be met. Yeah. So I think the ongoing one-on-one is really a really nice kind of pairing with that. It's like the vertical axis going down deep, and then the horizontal axis integrating over time. Yeah. And that, for me, that's kind of like the perfect combo.
Yeah. And also, again, important just to mention that breathwork is a very important part of this journey with us, and it's our main tool, if you want. But it's by far not everything that we do on a retreat. There's so many elements to it, so many group exercises, challenges, things that trigger. Yeah. And it's just like the pillar, the anchor, the tool that integrates and brings everything together. Yeah. But there's many other elements to it as well.
Yeah, not to give too much away, because I want to save for when whoever you are listening joins us on a retreat. But, you know, in a one-on-one session, and I've had this before, like for instance, I'll give you one example. I had a retreat, a one-on-one retreat in Greece 2 years ago, and I was working with the person. We were going super deep, like really into some quite juicy topics and getting a lot of insights. And I was in this really like good energy, like really almost comfortable to go to the depths with this person in the one-on-one retreat, because we had 5-6 days together with breath work, and it was all landing and integrating.
And coaching.
Breath work and coaching, exactly, and exercises. And then after one of the days, I had a coaching call in the evening with a long-term client who'd also done retreats before, who'd also like worked, you know, and we jumped on the call, and I brought the same energy, like the same intensity that I had in the retreat to the one-on-one call. And afterwards he sent me a message like, hey, that was really powerful. And it was like super intense, and it took a while to integrate, because I was bringing the same thing of like, let's go deep. But what I recognized after that experience was actually in a one-on-one, I couldn't really bring the person as deep comfortably, because they didn't have the space to integrate after, you know? So I think the combination of like having this retreat where I know we can go deep because we got 5-6 days in this super cocoon space. And I know that at the end of each day, we're going to have a breath work and we're going to complete and integrate, and everyone goes off for dinner and off to bed, like chill and relaxed. Versus like, you know, you do a coaching breath work in the day and then you've got a meeting in the evening and it's just like, it's kind of fit into the calendar. So I think having that foundation from the retreats of like the solidness and then applying that with spaciousness with the integration over time is like the juiciness.
Yeah. Yeah. So really, really, really looking forward to 2025, where we're going to put more focus on retreats, offering more retreats in different parts of the world, and combining this unique experiences with travel experiences with community. And that's really exciting outlook for me personally, as well as for the business and for the people joining.
Totally. So yeah, so I suppose the next steps is, you know, if you're listening to this and it's before October 13th, then there might still be a chance to join our retreat in Ios, Greece, which is a place that me and Rene have spent kind of over 20 years combined. Yeah. So we're very much locals on that island, and we love to bring people to a place that we used to, really run events in and spend a lot of time in a slightly different era. And now we get to bring people there in the off season when it's still, 28 degrees in mid-October, and really take them on this journey and take them around the island to the best restaurants, to the beautiful beaches, and just have this kind of blank canvas to ourselves, with also a really beautiful villa space there as well. Yeah. So that's kind of like our next offering. And then if you're listening to this after 13th of October, then we're going to Bali for a retreat in February next year. And then there's also going to be Georgia again, as we just spoke about, happening in May.
So covering all the vibes. We have Greek island vibes, beach, then we have Georgia, the mountains, 5,000 meter peaks, and then we have Bali, the jungle, the mountains, the beach, everything together.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be our three main pillars, our locations that we're always going to go back to every year for a few times. And then, we're still looking for a couple of more exciting places.
Yeah. It's not bad, eh? It's pretty...
Yeah.
We've chosen our bases pretty well. Pretty happy with them.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy to clock out there. I think we're going to close out with maybe just a few words from some of the guys who joined our latest retreat in Georgia, and they had some nice words to say at the end. So we're going to fade in some nice words from some of our participants on those retreats. Anything you want to close out with?
No.
Good to go. Well, here's
everything. Said everything.
Yeah, said everything. Okay, well, here's the participants of our latest retreat in Georgia. And if you want to find out more about joining one of our retreats, you can go to reallyaligned.com. You can find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, all the things. Shoot us a message. Sign up for a discovery call or join the waitlist for one of our retreats. And we hope to see you in one of our beautiful locations around the world for a hopefully very powerful, transformative experience.